When I was first asked to be the speaker today, I was like, you know what? It makes sense. I am literally obsessed with trends. That's all I think about. That's what I look at on my phone. And I love to always look at what is happening around the world. What fashion designers are doing, what stylists are doing, what celebrities are doing, pop culture, and more. So my main reason for being here is my obsession. Second reason is my experience. I've been in the industry since 2007, and I always seek the knowledge through my customers, always looking at what sells. That's the biggest way of me figuring out what people want, is analyzing sales and also looking at what people are looking for after. But I want everyone to know that what I'm about to present and all the trends I'm about to present to you is based on what I've seen, what I know, but not for sure. So I don't have a crystal ball. If I get anything wrong, do not send me any legal letters because it could happen that some trends in Australia may not resonate as much as other countries. So always keep that in mind, and also keep in mind what your customers want, which I'll get to later. But the first main thing we want to talk about is what trends are not. So usually a trend isn't something that just comes and goes. One thing that I love to think about when I think of trends is that it's an evolution. That's kind of why it's easy to predict what the next trend is. It's always a slow evolution. The best example I can think of is when we saw skinny jeans versus the big jeans. It sometimes felt like it was an overnight trend, but really it actually took years. And there was always different kind of stages of that trend. But most importantly, when we look at what trends are, we look at something that isn't just new. It's an evolution. So you can analyze what you know and then often think of what would naturally come next from this trend. But I'm assuming a lot of you are retailers, and even if you're small brands, the biggest superpower you have as a small business is curation. Curation is key to success, because when you create curation in your store, it's a journey. It's a journey of discovery. It's allowing your customers to get to know what you think is on trend. The superpower that you have, unlike other bigger retailers, is bigger retailers would buy in bulk. They'll follow data. They'll merge by product category. You know what I mean when you walk into the big department stores. The curation isn't amazing, but it's mainly sold through categories of you're looking for this product, you'll find various types of the same product. For small retailers, the magical power that you have is curation, your ability to pick and choose and merchandise it in a way that creates meaning and purpose and excitement for your customers. That is something that larger retailers don't have, and I think keeping that in mind allows you to have a really strong point of difference. You're also able to take risks that large retailers can't. You can try what you think is a trend in a small way, see if it works, and then you go from there. One thing that I think that the small independent stockists have is you're telling your customers that you know what's good, what's beautiful, what's trendy, and you're also somehow telling them that their style is current, and you're giving them validation. So when they walk into your store and they see a style that they like or they've seen on Instagram, they're like, oh, okay, so what I've got in my home or what I'm wearing is good, is on trend. So it's that feeling of validation that I think is quite powerful that small retailers like yourselves are able to give. And this emotional safety is what drives spending. And I think it's the discovery through really good and strong curation. Otherwise, if you really think about it, people can always just buy things online, and they do, if they're seeking something that would fill a gap in their lives. But when they're looking at discovery, curation is key. And another thing I want to mention, and one of my favorite quotes when it comes to in fashion, is through Giorgio Armani's quote of style is about proportion. And what that means is, imagine a man with a longish neck. A collared shirt will always look better. A woman with shortish legs, a low waisted pants would never look as good as if she wore high-waisted pants. I think that, for me, that quite resonates in so many ways in terms of in-store as well, is because we're looking at what works for you. So there is trends and styles that are popular, but keep in mind that what works for your store and for your customers may be different to what's working out there in a big way. So just gonna keep going. Okay, so this is quite important. And the best way to think about this is knowing where your customer sits. The best marketing advice or business advice is to know your target market, know your customers, be obsessed with your customers. What do they do during the day? What do they love? What don't they love? And I think a part of that, knowing and getting to know them, is knowing where they sit on how quickly they are to adopt trends. Everyone adopts trends differently, and the best example I can give is technology. I have a friend that the first gadget that comes out in Apple, he'll be the first to buy it. Me, I'll be like, maybe if there's 5 stages, I'll probably be sitting on 4 when it comes to technology. So always think about, where do your customers sit in terms of adopting trends? If they're right at the start, then it's hard work for you, because it means you have to make sure that you're on trend right from the get-go. But if your customers are slightly later adopters, it means that you can always test things, see how they go before you go big on one certain style or trend. Knowing where your customer sits is key, and of course we've got the innovators. They're the ones that love being first, they follow the designs, they take risks. I mean, I would love to think I'm an innovator when it comes to trends, but I'm not. I am not brave enough. I would see something that I like, but I'm thinking, ooh, I think I'll get too much attention if I wear this, but I like it. I'll wait a little bit. The next level would be the early adopters. Now, if you look at the percentage of the early adopters, it's only 13 to 15%. So again, that is very early, and it's not the majority of your customers. Most of your customers, I believe, would be in the early majority. But again, if you're in, let's say, a rural town where trends are not as important, then you wouldn't have to be bringing in products or curate new themes in your store if your customer is in the late majority. So just keeping in mind where your customers sit in when they adopt trends, I think is very important. And then you've got the slow adopters. The slow adopters only make up a small amount. They're usually they don't like taking risks. They're the type of people that may wait for everyone else to have it. I mean, think of like a technology, again, I give it the example of technology. They'll probably be the last ones to get AirPods. You know, that's an example of when it comes to trends and how quickly people adopt them. So I think you all know your customers, so keep that in mind when you start buying. It's like, okay, how early are my customers in adopting new trends? And it's also important to not bring out trends too early in your store and not too late. So timing of trends is key to success. If you bring a trend too early, you may find the stock is not going to move. If you bring it out too late, then again, everyone has done it, especially some discount department stores. They've gone way ahead, they've done it in a big way, they've got really good prices, and there's no way you're going to be able to compete with them, so you're too late on the trend. So knowing the timing is key. And so this is the exciting part, and this is the part I'm looking forward to, is actually telling you what the trends are. Again, this is a disclaimer. If I get them wrong, please do not send me legal letters. And I also want to mention that how big these trends are going to be in Australia we don't know for sure. Some trends could be huge in Australia and some could be small. The research that I've done is quite in depth. It's also based on my experience. I've listened to lots of podcasts and watched lots of YouTube videos to prepare myself for today, because usually when I come to designing products, I don't do as much research because it's more about what I sense. But I didn't want to risk it with you guys, so I thought, okay, I need to do some research, and here it goes. The very first trend is maximalism. And thank God, I'm so sick of beige on beige on beige on beige. And how many living rooms in Australia you walk into and you see beige on beige? And wait, there's a pot plant with a big green leaf. Cool, that's the biggest, brightest color you're gonna see in that room. Well, 2026, people want to feel like they're living in spaces which have been well-traveled or well-lived in. There's different eras in this home. And I'm not just talking about home, it's also in fashion. So we're thinking of like color on color. We're thinking of Art Deco with meeting mid-century. We're thinking of, when it comes to colors, my favorite thing with color trends is we're still going to see earthy tones. And I keep mentioning Australia because we always have to think what will be popular in Australia. Being such a sunny country and we love our nature, natural earthy tones always win us over. We prefer earthy tones, and I think that's still going to be popular in 2026. However, the earthy tones are going to be deeper. So imagine deeper plums, darker olive greens. We're going to see bright orange, terracotta oranges, and red kind of paprikas, which lends itself more towards orange. Mixing bold statements, even in fashion. So when I talk about fashion and maximalism, we can talk about big, like let's say huge skirts, but it's paired with a very basic tee. So maximalism doesn't always have to be over the top outfits from head to toe. It's about styling your outfit in a way that's maximalist because you've got a statement piece, but you're mixing it with something really simple. I'm going to keep throwing examples of fashion. I'm not sure how many stores here are fashion compared to home, but I think you can relate the two together. And when it comes to kind of also glamour, you're getting a lot of the young girls going really kind of big and bold with their makeup as a experimental. The overall consensus with a lot of the trends I'm about to predict is people want to feel different. They want to be different. They want to stand out, and they want it to be personal to them. And I think maximalism is a perfect trend which allows people the creative freedom to be bold and be themselves. And I think people are so over seeing the same things or feeling the same ways. It's a personal expression. A lot of the images here show Art Deco mixed with big bows. The new animal print apparently is like the Bambi D print. And you'll see a lot more coming later. My favorite trend is what we call the circus aesthetic. You've already seen a lot of it already in 2025. It's a trend I see a lot because I think, again, it resonates in Australia. It's not too risky, but it's also quite a statement piece. So when you're talking about curation in your store, we're looking at big, bold vases with stripes. We're talking about pieces of furniture or soft furnishings that have patterns but are bold and simple. We're talking about strong contrast. And we're talking about areas of your home which it's not too risky. So again, if you've got a beige couch, which a lot of us do, you can throw in a bit of the circus aesthetic without taking too much risk. As a store buyer, this is perfect because it's not, the trend isn't risky. I think the stock will move because it's for the customer. They walk into your store and they see there's a common kind of aesthetic in the store, and it's the circus aesthetic, which means big, bold stripes. And that is something that I can bring into my home. Perfect, sounds safe. Again, earlier I mentioned that people want to feel validated. And another component of validation is you giving them the direction and going, hey, lean this way because this is what's cool right now. And then they're like, okay, it feels good to be different while still being on trend. And there's this perfect balance of you're not crossing the line where you're too weird and different, but you want to be trendy and cool, but not also dated. So it's working out the timing. Like I mentioned before, this is a trend that I think is easy to adopt in your store. Modern decadence is another trend. Now, this one is a lot more of a European vibe. Not all Australians would love it. Australians tend to feel or appear a bit more earthy and humble in their aesthetic, so they don't tend to look as European in the glam perspective. I personally love modern decadence. We're talking about jewelry that comes from like really bold architectural jewelry. We're talking about motifs of hands and eyes. Plums and purples and kind of like chalk whites is a big trend in terms of the colors. I've already seen a lot of that from Christmas last year, and I think we're going to see a lot more of those deeper tones. And then we've got the crafted and human-made. That is a trend that I see amongst Australians because we do love the imperfections of homewares. We love things that feel like they've been made by hand. This really comes down to your customers, and I say that again, and I'll keep repeating that. If your customers don't mind higher price points, then this is perfect. It works because it's more handmade, which lends itself to higher price point homewares. But if your customer doesn't want to spend too much, you can still buy homewares that look handmade but are not handmade. A lot of these images lend itself to kind of like handmade natural materials. They tell a story, and this is an opportunity to display where they're made, how they're made. So telling a story of products that are crafted by humans. And then we've got the romantic poet aesthetic. This one excites me because I'm in the industry of greeting cards. So we're going to see more and more people writing letters and cards, but more so than just writing and letters and cards, they're personalizing them. How do they're personalizing envelopes with stickers. They're kind of doing illustrations. There's journaling. So it's not just about greeting cards, but it's that aesthetic of someone, again, I'm repeating the very, very early thing that I said of people wanting to feel different. It's their personal approach to gifting. It's them making things themselves. And I definitely see this aesthetic being trendy in 2026. It's the girl that has the tote with the cardie. It's the girl who likes things that are sentimental, who gifts things that are sentimental. That is not someone that likes mass-produced looking things. This is quite a big big trend that I predict will be big in 2026. And this is, again, an extension of what I just said. It's thoughtful connection. I don't know if you all remember the days of pen pals back, I think it was the 90s. I'm not saying that pen pals is coming back, but it's that feeling of connecting with people through writing. Journaling is going to be big. People love buying higher-end stationery today. Again, depends on your customer. If they are the type to spend money on beautiful paper. And food motifs. We've seen a lot last year of the sardines. Personally, very over them. If I see one more sardine, no, I'm joking. It's still cool to have sardines in your shop. But what we're seeing new now is botanicals you can eat, herbs. Croissants are apparently the new bow. Baked goods, cherries, but in a deeper, more elevated way, not the comical cherry illustrations. Figs and plums are apparently the big motifs of the season of 2026. And seafood. But when it comes to seafood, we're going to see more lobsters and less sardines. A little bit more elevated, which takes us to the Mediterranean mood. Mediterranean mood, we've seen a lot of the Amalfi Coast vibe in 2025, and it's still going, and I think it will still continue to grow, but in a different type of way. The new way we're going to see the Mediterranean mood is elevated. So think more olive leaves, think more figs, grapes, herbs, and I've mentioned the kind of lobster aesthetic, the colors that are coming through. So it's going to be a bit less kind of bright Amalfi Coast vibe and a bit more of a moody feeling of a Mediterranean look and feel. The next trend is we saw a lot of the bag charms. I don't know how big this one is going to be in 2026, but apparently the new bag charm is brooches. So this is another way of people personalizing themselves, their style, their shops. It's easy. It's not a risky trend to put in your store. And we've also seen already rosettes being a thing. And this is going to be another way of people to jump on the maximalism trend without being too different in their look. Insects is the new kind of symbol we're going to see in 2026. Don't think pretty butterflies. I think we're going to be a bit more deeper in the colors. Moths are apparently going to be big for designers. That's going to be a big trend for designers. We're still going to see bees, and that's going to lend itself in like stationery, jewelry, wallpaper. Fragrance layering is something I'm excited by. Again, it goes back to the trend of people wanting to personalize themselves, feeling individual. We've seen the trend with niche perfumes. Now the new trend in the fragrance world is layering. People want to be different. So when someone asks, what are you wearing? Well, I'm not just wearing so-and-so. I'm wearing a mix of this and this and this. Again, it tells a story. It's personalizing themselves amongst the rest. If there are any brands out there that offer that, I think it is a great trend to jump on. And I do see this working as a personalized gift. Now, this is a trend I don't predict will be huge in Australia. The reason why the whole Amalfi Coast worked really well in Australia is because it's relatable. We live in a sunny country. We love the beaches in Australia. We love the outdoors. This is a trend that Pinterest has predicted to be big in 2026. It could be, but I don't personally predict it to be a huge trend because it's so away from us in Australia. Yes, we've got mountains, and yes, we've got skiing resorts here, but the aesthetic is, and I personally love the aesthetic. I mean, think of the colors, the vintage posters, the motifs of snowflakes. So that's something that you can risk maybe in a small way and see if it grows. The morning club. The morning club is a trend, and this is up to you on how you want to interpret this trend. Have you ever met a vegan that will tell you that they're vegan in the first 5 minutes of meeting them? It's a cliche. We all know that, and I'm actually one, but that's a side note. People love showing off that they're vegan. It's a thing, and it's going to be the same thing for people who wake up really early in the morning. It's their biggest flex. Any opportunity they'll get, they'll tell you that they woke up at 5 and they did yoga at 6. And this trend is going to come through in 2026. It's the wellness trend, but it's the feeling of belonging. It's like, I belong in that group of people, that type of person that wakes up early. How this is represented in their clothing, in their notebooks, in their fragrance choice, in their kind of maybe candles, or how it's reflected in matcha making kits. This is the trend in 2026. How you interpret this trend in your store is up to you, but it is a trend that I see big in Australia. Sorry, I know I don't have much time left, so I'm going to go really quickly. Astrology is, to me, a trend this time, but not in that mystic weird, I'm going to tell your future. It's a really fun, bold way to give a gift to someone whilst that is personal and meaningful and not too spiritual. It's probably not going to be a huge trend, and so I'm going to repeat myself again and say, if your customers are not that person, don't get it in. So know your customer. See if they're the type of person that is into that. The big color of 2026 prediction is not chalk white, like the Pantone predicted. It is blue. All the fashion designers have shown this already. We've even got already in big interior design magazines, we've seen blue on blue on blue, different tones of blue, from deep blues to icy blues. Blue is the color of 2026. But whilst I want to mention that plums and olives, plum colors and olives are also very trendy. So we're talking about deep, bold colors in 2026. And I just wanted to mention it in 2025, a lot of the colors that were on trend reflected food motifs that we loved. So for example, the pistachio green came from the pistachio chocolate that we all were obsessed with, and now everything is pistachio flavored. We saw the cherry red tomato as a color that was big in 2025, and that's because of the Amalfi Coast trend. So there's a lot of colors that come through food. I don't know where blue comes from, but even Dulux have said that this is the color of the year. And just finally, sorry, I know we're running late. Is that okay? Okay, so I left this as the end because Australiana, I don't believe, is a trend. Australiana, in a big way, is a movement. When we see what happens overseas and we know the hardships that other people go through, there's this inner pride that we have of being Australian. And it's not the kind of pride that we'll have a flag outside our house. It's the very subtle, personal kind of pride of being recognized, we belong here, and we express it through homewares that reflects the flora and fauna of Australia. So Australiana, in a big way, will continue in 2026, but not as a trend, but as a movement. At La La Land, we're apparently one of the founders of Australiana, which we're very proud of. And Australiana is a theme that we love expressing in so many different collections, in so many different ways. It sells well. It sells well because, again, it's a feeling of pride, but it's subtle. It means I am an Australian, but I'm not going to rub it in your face. It means that I live in a beautiful country and I'm going to show through my identity, but not in like a big flag in front of our house. It's familiar. There's a lot of everyday cultural references. Native flora and fauna is big on lots of different products. And when it comes to an example of Australiana being big is a candle that smells like the Australian bush. You can only find in Australia. It separates us from everyone else and everywhere else in the world. So the key takeaway, and I hope I've helped by giving you all the trends of 2026. If you've experimented with some trends, I hope that it's through knowing your customer, ensuring that you feel confident that that's what your customer wants. I like the idea of you showing off what a trend is to your customers, by you being confident enough to say, this is the trend, this is what I think you should buy, and do it through your social media, do it through your photography, do it through your window displays. You educate them because what you're giving them is this confidence that when they walk in, that they're cool, because you're telling them that they're buying from your store, that they're on trend because it's you educating them. So curation in your store is a journey, it's an experience, but it's also you giving them validation. And I think that is key to embracing trends and make money from it. So I hope I've helped today. But finally, I want to say thank you, and I want to leave you with Lady Gaga, because this image represents the colors of 2026. We've got the blues, the chalk whites, and we've got the deep plums. So thank you everyone for listening.